Welcome to the Strongman Say podcast 2023, the first episode. Welcome back. Welcome back to the hot seat.
Yeah, back in it.
Yeah.
Feels like it's been a while.
It does feel like it's been a while.
I think it has.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's been 4 weeks or more.
How'd you spend your break? Did you do anything exciting?
Not at all. I got sick after New Year's and basically just suffered for 2 weeks.
I mean, I already know how he spent his time.
Yeah.
So. Sick.
Yes. Yeah, literally sick. Yeah.
And who gave you that cold?
I actually don't know because Steph was sick, but then all my symptoms are completely different to what she had.
Yeah. I thought you were blaming Steph hard.
I was trying.
I still would.
I was trying. No, heaps of people are sick at the moment. Like when I said about that, everybody else has said the same. And the same thing of like, oh, it's been 3 weeks and I'm still coughing up something.
So wild. I'm being super lucky to dodge it. But like Josh as well, like one of our mates, one of our mates was like knocked out for 2 weeks and still recovering. It seems like a real nasty one too.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And I rarely get sick. Well, pretty much my entire, like I reckon I've been sick 3 times in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And before that, I was sick 3 times in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
So if this
all
is...
that mask wearing.
Yeah.
The Strongman Say conspiracy podcast. Dun, dun, dun.
It all came after the mass incarceration of the world.
Yeah.
So if this is life now, like I just want to end it.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to end it.
I always thought I was good at being sick.
Supplements and vitamin D and vitamin C, bro. You'd be sweet.
The thing is
end it.
You know what upset me?
Yeah.
It's the best I've been with food tracking. It's the best I've been with like supplementation and vitamins. Like I've been on top of everything at the moment.
You've gotten more sick.
And I got more sick.
Yeah.
I was like, back to pizza and donuts.
Yeah.
Not giving a shit.
Yeah. You feeling better for the weekend?
Yeah, as long as I don't cough out. Like every now and then I'll cough and be like, oh, okay, something's still there, but I can actually breathe again.
Yeah.
So, but haven't trained much in the last 2 weeks. So it is just kind of like warm up, see how it goes.
Yeah. Which was kind of always going to be like that approach for you anyway.
Yeah.
You kind of weren't working on the event work. You were sort of doing off peak, but like building sort of work anyway.
Yeah. It's going to be like that for everyone. Like I think everyone's excited for the comp, but don't have any idea how they're going to go because the Ukrainian's different. The frame's different.
Events are arbitrary, hard to gauge.
Yeah, everyone's trained, but they're like, don't know if that's good.
Yeah. And I try to tell clients that too that are doing it. It's like, yep, you've done really well. Like overall, your performance and stuff in the program has gone really well. But, you know, it's really hard to gauge a pull and drag and a Ukrainian deadlift and like a frame hold around it. So, because there's so many variables. It's like, have you done well? Have you improved week to week? Are you executing relatively well? Then
it should transfer over.
Just go out there and have fun.
Yeah, I think overheads and stones are the only thing that you know where you're at.
Tangible, like objectively able to gauge.
Yep.
Yeah. Excited for the weekend in general?
Yeah, it's always a fun weekend.
Yeah.
Not so much about competing. Like
that's the spirit.
I said that from the start though. I was like, oh, some of the events will be fun. Some of the events I'm not that excited about.
Yeah.
But comps, love comps.
Yeah.
Like I'd be happy to go up and coach.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Like I'm happy just to hang out, coach, see it all. Like, I'm long past getting FOMO and being like, I have to compete at every single comp.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, oh, do you get FOMO? And I remember like the first Arnold I didn't do. And I was like, did you have FOMO? And I was like, no, not at all.
Yeah.
Like, I've done a lot of comps.
That either just shows maturity or like just tiredness and old age. Where you're watching and you're like, are you getting FOMO? You're like, no, that looks hard. No. Yeah. Especially if it's like a sled pull. Do you get FOMO? I get FOMO of stones.
Do you?
Yeah. If there's a big stone series event at a comp, I'm like,
I like the drag
I could have
stuff.
a crack at that.
I like that. Just there's not really a lot of intelligence that goes into it, like drag and pull. You know, there's just a lot of hurt, like legs burning, back, like breath, lungs hurting.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff.
That is shit to train though.
Yeah, it's shit to train.
Because you can't train that at an RPE 6.
No, yeah. Because if it's light, it's an RPE 10. If it's heavy, it's an RPE 10.
If it's
fast
light
or it's slow.
If it's light and you take it easy, now it's heavy.
Yeah, super heavy. You're right.
Yeah. The whole comp's been listening to everybody that's been training the events. The whole comp, setup wise in the gym, has been a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's been a big prep.
That's probably
in terms of setup,
yeah,
different implements.
All the events are, I mean, the Ukrainian's not really hard to set up.
Nah, it's just rising bar.
Yeah.
But you just need to have 2 friends, which
like,
a lot of people don't.
Yeah, like the sled carry and drag's like an annoying one to set up for.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, true. 2 friends for the Ukrainian to do the loading.
Yeah, so you've got somebody to be there the whole time.
Yeah.
You got to set up all the overhead stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is a bit of a tedious setup for most days.
They're the fun events.
Yeah.
Like what OSG had the 4 deadlift
yeah,
bar.
I know, and you got to load 4 bars.
You could do it on one bar and have people add plates, but it's not as fun as dropping a bar, stepping over it, and picking up the heavier bar.
I agree.
So it's so much fun to train, but it's an hour of setup.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 kilos of
Maybe we need
plates.
to start like a strongman crew, like a 3 to like our training time, like 3 to 5. So everyone trains together and sets up and does the same thing.
That would be very organized and
well
put together.
But then everyone's on different programs and it makes it hard.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing with programming or like doing a style of training like that where you have a crew and you come in and train, but then you've got coaching because if you're training with a group, you're all moving in the same direction and you're doing different loads.
Yep.
But realistically, at the end of the day, to get the best, you need to be working on like the things that you are doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that makes it really hard.
I think there's a sweet spot with groups and training.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3 can bounce off each other well, help each other load.
Yeah.
Keep things moving. Someone's always going to be quicker than someone else. But then like 4 or 5 or 6 and people are just fucking around.
Yeah, and I guess things get slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then any pros over the weekend that you're really looking forward to seeing compete in the pro shows?
I think I'm more excited for the women.
Yeah.
I think there's just more like variance between events like Donna and Andrea, and then you've got Ali and everybody else here.
I agree. The female pros I think will steal the show.
Yeah. I think Mitch will run through everything pretty comfortably.
It's hard when there's not a lot of...
I think Rano will run through some things comfortably.
Yeah.
Depends how much effort he wants to put in.
I think it's hard when there's not a lot of the top guys.
Yeah.
Like the internationals. Obviously hard time of year for the internationals and a lot of stuff coming up with like Britons and UKs and all that sort of stuff, which means that the men's side of the internationals, it's a little bit harder because you've got Mitch who's probably definitely that level above the others where the girls are actually quite tight.
Yeah, the men's you can almost just grab them and separate them across the board. Like if Matt Ragg or somebody came over, that'd be interesting to throw him in the mix and stuff. Whereas, you've got Rongo and the other Australian guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, whereas, the women, no idea who's going to win.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a big weekend. It's day and night. It's a few days. Lots of people, lots of strongman and strong women people just coming to watch, coming to check it out. So, yeah, I think it's a fun weekend regardless. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hanging out, having a chat, coaching, seeing people hit PRs, seeing the competition play out, meeting some of those guys.
It's only meant to be 26, which is
wonderful.
Rare. Every other compound has been like in the 30s, and like you watch people just like slide off stones by the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah,
so,
much nicer.
Or doing log staring straight at the sun.
The sunglasses is definitely a key.
Yeah, bring sunglasses.
Yeah.
Anyone that's going, and a chair.
Yeah.
Bring a chair. You won't regret it.
Might have to bring the gazebos if there's room again. That was pretty handy. Yeah. Speaking of like ASI, kicking off 2023 Strongman. Thoughts on the new structure? And I will say straight up that I'm all about it. I quite like it. And I really like that it's cool. 2022, first year back. Let's see how it goes. Let's throw all the balls in the court and see how it plays.
Yep.
And then I think it's a very smart thing to reevaluate, take a snapshot of like how the year looked and readjust based on that and see, like there's trial and error to be had to figure out where we're at and how to structure things. But I quite like the structure with the qualifying comps, some points in there like Grand Prix style. What are your thoughts about the structure for like the ASI Federation next year?
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot smoother. I think last year was great, but everybody just dodged everybody else and didn't want to compete at this or didn't want to compete at that. So I just don't think we had the numbers for it.
Yeah,
I think it being busier and having heaps seemed great, and then just no one really rocked up. So having 7 each state has one.
Yeah.
Qualifier.
Yeah.
So now if you're in Victoria, you've got to do that. And
come top 2 or get points.
Yep.
And then you accumulate points over those qualifiers if you're traveling and stuff like that to try and qualify for those comps. Those comps will qualify you for basically everything.
Yep. I think you'll get the best people at those events traveling to those comps. Like a lot of people, a couple of people, like my clients send me a message and go, have a look at Queensland's. I want to do those events.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that as well. Yeah.
They're not going to duck or change
Yeah.
no matter who signs up or who doesn't. They're set on those events.
Yeah, you should have seen that Westling's eyes light up with a second squad.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a squad event?
Done.
I'm traveling.
Yeah. So I think everyone's already just gone, okay, 7 months locked.
100%.
That's my
That's
comp.
the one that you're going to head for. Yeah, I think that the coolest thing about it is, and we've talked about this and caught flack over this, like in social media as well, but condensing the competition so you've got a stacked comp where everyone has to do it to try and qualify, and it's dog eat dog, motherfuckers, go get it, because everyone in your weight class is a killer and you have to be fucking good to win or to get those 2 spots, which means that if it's fierce competition in those 7 qualifiers, it means that when you get to that last competition, there's no one zeroing 4 out of fucking 5 events because they slid their way through. Like, that means that realistically, when you get to that last competition, there's points shared. You've got to fight for it. You drop an event, you're off the podium. And that's what makes the sport interesting. You know, we're talking about the boys in ASI and we're talking about the women. The sport is interesting when it's competitive. When you've got guys that you're watching go back and forth and points splitting, and you have to go check the scores and stuff like that because you don't know where you are and what you've got to do or who you've got to top for the next thing. That's what makes it fun.
Well, that's why people watch all the Giants live comps.
Yeah, because they're close.
They wouldn't watch the Giants live comp if there was
one dude
Novikov, 2 other guys, and then 6 people that you just plucked out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, I'm actually really keen to see. I'm not married to it. I mean, it's not my structure. So.
Didn't have a part in it?
Didn't have a part in it. But I'm really excited to see how it plays out and if it works. And if we do get to see that this year. I think it's really cool. So for those who don't know, if you're unaware of the structure, we've gone from having multiple comps in this banding system where you can qualify and the first person qualifies, et cetera, to condensing the amount of competitions that you can compete, that you can qualify at, down to 7 or 1 each state or something along those lines. Don't quote me on the numbers. Sorry, Mason, if you're listening and I fuck it up. So you'll have like top 2 kind of qualify from each of those comps, go through to those events, and then you will accumulate points in that Grand Prix kind of system. So if you are competing and you're missing out on getting third in like 3 comps, that you're probably accumulating enough points to kind of get into there too, because you've shown that you're competitive over a consistent period, which I think is cool. Yeah,
they should fill out, and we should hopefully see more intermediate, newer people. Just taking a stab at it.
And that's probably actually my most favorite thing, not just from the higher level competition stuff, but all those comps having more frequent state level competitions that are building up. You know what I mean? So they're like building to a certain competition with all novice sort of categories in there as well, which means that there's a lot of opportunities for both the novice competitors that'll be new to the sport to have a dip their toes in the water. And number 2, those open, I can't remember what they called it. They called it a name, free-for-all lifters, where it's not intermediate. It's just like if the loads are appropriate to you, jump in and lift. Right. And that way you're sort of like building up, and then you'll have like the state level comps, which is the qualifiers, be at the pinnacle of those sort of lead up comps. I think it's cool.
I think
in theory it's a cool idea.
Every comp's going to lead, like it's going to be catered towards a certain demographic.
Sure.
So if a comp comes out and everything's light, you don't go, oh, this isn't Strongman, it's too light. It's just like, it's not for you.
So ours, May 11th,
May 11th, I think.
Something like that.
Whatever date is a weekend.
Whatever the Saturday date is, around that time. I do have it on my phone. The events for Battle in the Bay at Strong Geelong, which will be, I believe, Comp 2 in Victoria. The first one is at Strong House. I believe. Don't quote me on any of this. I'm not a fact checker. We don't have. We should. We can have an Echo. We can have a Jamie. He'd have to get on the phone. Yeah.
You gotta be quick with it.
The events for Battle in the Bay at Strong Geelong, we have decided, not loads, but we decided what we're doing, and there's some cool ones in there. Lee Shaw, take it away.
All right. No particular order because
we're not that organised. But it's pretty much in order.
That's actually not a bad order. Car deadlift, reps.
Cool car.
Very cool car.
Yeah. It's not bad.
That was the whole purpose of doing a car deadlift.
Yeah, we actually just wanted to use the car deadlift. We've got a car.
Yeah, we had a sick big ute. Big old school ute. It's like
deadlift the Dodge. It's an old Dodge ute.
Yeah.
With the Strong Geelong painted on it. It's bright orange. It's pretty rad. You deadlift that.
Keg, clean and press ladder. Probably 4 kegs.
Yeah.
Lined up like how OSG did the sandbags.
Yep. You just move forward, keg overhead press, next keg overhead press, next keg going ascending in weight.
Yep. Not reps at the end.
No.
Because that's just...
Quick game's a good game.
Look, it's more impressive if somebody rolls through 4 and they're done and they celebrate and they walk off.
Yeah.
Than to force somebody that's really strong to do 13 reps.
Yeah.
And gas out.
Make everyone look shit.
Yeah. But then you can also make it heavier.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing reps at the end.
Of course.
Like max frame hold.
Yep.
Unsure of what frame we're going to use, but something.
Not there yet. Max hold. Grip
Max
event.
hold. Just use the car deadlift.
God, yeah, potentially.
Oh, that'd be gross.
Yeah, that would be yuck.
Remember the World's Strongest Man where they did that with straps on?
Yeah.
So they were allowed to strap in and it was a max hold. So it was just basically whose neck and traps could endure the pain. So we should do that. I would love to not compete and watch that.
It'd also go for years.
Yeah.
Depending how heavy you made it.
Fingers.
Yes.
Is the goal.
Yeah. Some sort of finger.
Yep. 1 or 2.
Yes.
Something like that. Max distance, sandbag, carry around the course shape of our choosing at the gym.
Yeah. We're going to figure that out.
Yeah. We'll set up a track.
So
like a Mario Kart track.
Yeah, where you're kind of racing each other. So essentially you've got car deadlift for reps, a keg overhead press medley, rising keg, a frame hold, a finger within a time limit, and a sandbag carry for distance.
Yep.
So fun events, different events. We will have the balcony, the arena, the Coliseum set up. So like that bottom floor will be vastly clear. We'll have some spectating down there and then also upstairs. So it'll be cool. First proper strongman comp in the new space. So we're pretty keen to make it fun.
Yeah, it should be good. Everyone can watch from upstairs.
Yeah.
Have a warm up down the back corner fenced off.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll obviously get stuck into sorting that out soon and like registrations and put some details up. But we're looking forward to it. If anyone's competed at Strong Geelong before, you know that we don't really organise things in halves. We are very big on spectator and competitor enjoyment. So we like to make it run smoothly, move quickly, be fun, and look good.
Be done by 3 o'clock.
I've got an event that night, so yeah.
So it better be
4 at the latest, please.
Yeah.
We'll start at 6. Now, the next sort of thing, talking about competitions and ASI, the new structure, Battle in the Bay, is how, if you're looking down the barrel of 2023, how would you choose, or how would you look at choosing competitions, or suggest to your clients or people listening, how would you tell them or inform them to choose their comps coming up this year? Like, what would you look at? What are the variables that you would consider, and how you sort of tell them to structure their years?
If they're competitive and they want to qualify for the big things that come later,
do both.
Like if they're competitive and they want to qualify, pick one of those comps that you're good at. Pick the events you're good at.
Yeah.
Like if it's a qualifier, like don't go and pick events that you suck at.
Yep.
And be like, oh, it'll get me to train my weaknesses so I'll get better. It's like you need to qualify to do the next thing. Actually use this year as an off season because there's not many comps. Yeah. Last year was all over the place. Yeah. First year there's heaps of comps. Everyone jumped in comps. a lot of people ended up broken or like niggles, or this is a good year to go, the qualifiers in August, I have a big off season where I might be able to do one smaller comp.
It's hard to say. There's probably more comps. Like there's 4 comps every state with reasonable level. And then you'll have that's just in one federation. Then you'll have all the other sort of comps and stuff like that too. So I'm sure there won't be a shortage of comps.
But there's not many that qualify to go to something else.
Oh, no. So in terms of qualifiers,
if you're looking at a qualifier,
yeah.
you just pick your qualifier and you have a big off season.
Yeah.
And then you can pick anything else that isn't like the free-for-all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyone that's newish to it, that doesn't have a lot of experience, try to at least give yourself like 12 weeks between comps if you can.
Yep.
Or do the opposite and pick 3 comps close together.
Yep.
And just kind of half prep a little bit for like focus on one, jump in the other 2 just for fun.
Yep.
But have a big lead up.
Yep.
And then knock out 3.
Yeah.
And then have a break. Either that or try to like stretch them out a little bit.
Yeah, so you can get some training time and stuff in between.
Yeah, so you can at least do 6 weeks of like back end work and then do a 6-week small prep
and stuff like that.
Yeah. Just don't overshoot.
Yeah, and for that competitive group, a little bit of an off season and give yourself a good amount of time before looking at those qualifiers and hitting those qualifiers.
Yeah. Learn to enjoy training again.
Yeah.
Because people get so focused on comp highs.
Yeah.
That they finish comp, they get depressed. They're like, comp's over. I don't really enjoy training. There's a comp in 6 weeks. That'll make me happy. That'll get me focused again.
And never improving.
And they just jump comp to comp to comp.
I mean, you'll improve.
Yeah.
But probably not at the rate, or probably not at, like from a skill perspective or those small things that you could be, depending on the level that you're at. What's the most competitions that you've done in a 12-month period?
Probably not heaps, like 5 or 6.
Yeah, which is still reasonable.
I think. Yeah, I've never been one to just smash out a heap of comps.
12.
You?
Yeah.
Was that overseas though?
Yeah, it was a combination.
Yeah, because if you're overseas,
of course you're going to jam them together.
Yeah, you've got to do all of them.
That was a combination. I did four overseas comps, 8 comps in Oz, and then 2 endurance events on top.
And your knees are still paying for it.
Nah, my knees are good. But my knees were pretty trashed by the end, to be fair.
Yeah.
That was like a big 12 months. I absolutely tend to agree, but also think do whatever you want to do at the same token. I think it's like one of those things where, best case scenario, you would have a 6-week build or something like that, and like 6 weeks leading to competition and some time off in between, and then lead up into the competitions. But it really depends on like you as a person, what you want to get out of it, and I think managing expectations, right?
Yeah, so I struggle to look outside of my frame of mind, which is outcome.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'm like, how can I get the best outcome of something? Because if I'm not doing something to get better, what's the point?
Yeah.
I won't do it.
Totally.
So I look at everything in terms of how can I get the most out of it, whereas you're like, if you want to do 20 comps because it's fun,
do 20 comps.
Who gives a fuck?
Yeah,
and if you don't get stronger, but you just want to compete,
well, that's exactly,
go nuts.
That's what I try to do. Like if I've got people who just like love jumping in comps, and it's absolutely fine as long as expectation management, as a coach, expectation management is a big part of your job, right? Like managing expectations is probably the thing that people don't tell you about. But understanding that if you want to do 10 comps a year, you're not going to get vastly better. You're not going to hit huge PBs on all your lifts. You might hit some. Depending on the competitions and how they're spaced and what the events are, you might actually have a great run. It might be fantastic, or it might be a shit show and you're just jumping from comp to comp and you're limping between them. And just kind of like prep, cool, but you're having a blast, you're enjoying competitions, and that's what you want to do. That's an absolutely fine way to approach it, but you also have to understand that you're not going to get better by not doing some work in between. But you'll get better at competing. You'll get better at getting experience competing. You'll start to figure out whether you're enjoying it. If you're kind of like a year into the sport, you've kind of got a good decent strength, you haven't done a lot of comps yet, you've done like a novice comp or something, I would say jump into all 4 of those novice comps, or like do 2 of the novice comps and like start dipping your toe into the other ones. That's 4 comps. If it's your state, that's perfect, right? Like 4 comps, they're all reasonably spread out. I would jump into every single one of those, make the most out of your member registration, number 1. Number 2, they're relatively spaced out. They actually ascend in difficulty is the idea behind them. There's like a bit of a matrix in terms of loads. So there's lots of opportunity there to like hone your skills as a competitor or as an athlete and also get the work in. So if I was looking at, you know, you're just starting off in the strongman world, you've done some novice competitions or you've sort of been training up for one, I would say throw yourself into the deep end for the first year. Have some fun with it. Like just treat it as fun.
Yeah.
Don't take it too seriously. The outcome probably matters less than what you think in the first 12 months. It matters, and you'll still get stronger, but it probably matters less. Like 4 comps isn't going to be a big detriment at all. In fact, it's probably the right amount when you're starting off in that first year to get a nice even split between training time and comp exposure and like event exposure and getting a few different things in. But I definitely agree. If you are a competitive athlete and you've been competing or, you know, jumping between comp to comp last year, doing the middleweight series rounds or looking at qualifiers and you didn't get one, so you were sort of doing a couple, then you got ASI and you've been piggybacking comps all sort of year and you're feeling a bit burnt out. Pick a competition far enough away that gives you some downtime to take a step back for a few weeks. You know what I mean? Like actually step back and be like non-specific for a few weeks. Lead into some like non-specific GPP and like building phases and then get back into like a comp prep and like actually build on what you have. You'll have gotten great comp experience, strongman experience last year.
Yeah.
So now take all that experience, pull it back, put some work in, get stronger, get better at your craft and then start to compete again.
Yeah, I think everyone needs a year where they just jump in everything.
Yeah.
I said that to a few people because I'm like, you don't even know if you like comps.
Yeah.
You might like one and then you might hate the next 5 and go, you know what, that's not for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, dive into a lot, see what they're about. And then after that, be like, okay, do I just want to compete or do I want to get better?
It's like anything. It's kind of like the better you get, the less you can do, right?
There's a reason that like lifetime intermediate is a term.
Yeah.
And because people get caught being a lifetime intermediate.
Yeah, and
because everybody you can kind of do anything and then hit that.
Yeah.
And then to get into that next level, you actually have to take a step back, do a proper off season.
That's where it gets hard because that's where
you can't push through sore knees for 6 months.
Yes,
because then you just get weaker and weaker. You just stop squatting, right? You just stop push pressing, right? Yeah. You just go to strict press. Yeah.
Until comp day, you just send the push press.
Yeah. You just get a lot of tape.
And
a lot of sleeves.
I totally agree. I most definitely agree. That's very, very accurate. I think throw yourself into it. Do as much as you can to start off with, and as you progress, I think lifetime intermediate is one of those things where like some people, even though they put the work in, they're probably always going to be a lifetime intermediate. Not like we talk about it, not everyone gets to be good. That's the way that things go. You know, I wanted to play NBA. No, I didn't. But you get my drift.
Yeah.
But you're correct. Like a lot of people who could be good hit that ceiling or I heard a term recently for it and I can't recollect it, but it was a very good term talking about your ceiling from your natural or pinnacle of non-hard work, right? Like your natural talent for something will take you so far.
Yep.
And that's like your ceiling. And everyone's ceiling for that natural talent where like you can do the work or the hard work still and get very, very good, but you'll kind of cap out. And then once that caps out, then it's that like step up.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, whether it's lifetime intermediate or whether you become advanced, and that's where your hard work ceiling was, but now it's like, okay, well now the actual gritty stuff happens and now you've got to pull things back and rebuild them. Everyone's going to have that ceiling where, you know, everyone works at a similar sort of level, but we all sort of top out at a certain point. Some will top out better, some will top out not as quite as well. But then there's a time where it's like, okay, now I have to push past that. Now I have to learn things. Now I have to experiment. Now I have to get better and then move forward. So I think a lot of people, that would be a beneficial thing to do this year if you did push it last year.
Yeah, I think learning that you get to a point where you're going to spend 6 months training a lift and you still don't get a PB out of it. And it doesn't mean you didn't progress.
Yeah.
You still got a lot better, but you haven't seen it yet.
There's other
and
metrics.
That's still okay.
Yeah, there's other metrics.
Whereas when I started, like I was just getting PBs.
Yeah.
Every 3 months, every program.
Yeah.
every program I'd finish with a new PB.
Yeah, you got a PB every program. It's like, I want a 5 kilo increase or a 10 kilo increase. It's like, oh, I didn't PB this time. You quickly learn that the better you get, the fewer and farther the PBs become.
Yeah, and then like log, I got stuck on log for a year on the same number.
Yeah.
And then I'd go for a new max, miss it.
You're stuck on things for 2 years. I haven't progressed for 2 or 3 years.
I'm probably backwards on a few things, to be honest.
And yeah, 100%. Like I've definitely gone backwards on a few things, but
it would take time to get it back.
Yeah, but this is the thing with Strongman as well. You're filling so many buckets.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that people forget. Like it's not just 3 movements that you're moving forward or have to fill. You're filling a whole bunch of different buckets and variety of movements, and they change all the time, and the modalities of those change every time. Suddenly your capacity to hit reps goes up, but your peak strength on certain thing goes down because you haven't been training it, and then you've got to readapt to it and get the skill proficiency back and then start to build it. So it's kind of ever weaving sort of interplay between the events and where your peak loads are and where other elements are. But I think it's really hard to objectively see this, but have you gotten better on a whole? Do you know what I mean? Are you a better strongman? If you jumped into any competition, are your skills better to pick up events? Are your lifts in general at a better standard before you start a peak? Do you move better across those events? Do you have more tricks up your sleeve with certain events? You know what I mean? As a whole, which is much harder to objectively identify, where you look at like a powerlifting or weightlifting, it's like, I got better at the skill that I have to do.
Literally one squat.
Yeah, right.
It looks better, it looks worse.
Yeah, 100%. Looks better, it looks worse, right? Where strongman, there's so much variety and the movement and the modality of the movement that I think it's a little bit more subjective. Like you step back and you go, cool, like I think I'm actually better on a whole.
Yeah, you can't get caught in numbers like powerlifting.
No. Yeah.
Like even round 3 Wagga.
Yeah.
Did that comp. Mm-hmm. No PBs. I can't even really measure it to anything else because the events are different.
Yes.
So I'm like, was that better than what I could do a year ago? I'm like, it's really hard to pinpoint.
Yeah.
But I felt like everything was really consistent and everything was really on.
Right. But then you do the competition and it's like, well, we didn't train that much for it.
And I didn't destroy myself to get there to be in that peak condition. So I'm like, that's the base level, key, walk in.
Yeah.
So.
Which kind of sort of back on track. I sort of flagged this before we started, which was just arbitrary, right? But like if you're looking at the competitions that you're doing in the coming year, you know, we said 50% of those should be within your wheelhouse or your strength capacity or like capacity as you are right now, right? Yeah. So if you're doing competitions and you're jumping into competitions, if 50% of those you could do any day of the week and you're just having fun and you're competitive in that group and that's fun, then perfect, right? So like 50% shouldn't be stretching because you don't want 100% of the comps that you're doing to be ball busting, stretching your limit, redlining, right? Every peak, every program. So if you're doing a few competitions in the year, 50% should be kind of made up of what you're capable of doing tomorrow or next week or the week after, right? Like it's not a stretch. You just got to touch up on the skills, but the strength's kind of there and you're not breaking. You're doing exactly what you did with middleweight series, right? Yeah. Which is jump into something that you know you're capable of doing. And then that the next like 30 to 40% of those comps should be challenging, should be 1 or 2 events in there that are a push, or the events are a little bit of a push, or there's new skill development that has to happen. But you have to work a little bit for it, but you can recover from it. You're enjoying the process. It's not breaking you, but you're feeling an adequate amount of challenge. And then the 10%, which might be the qualifiers for you, which might be the national level competition for you. The 10 to 20% is the ones that like you're really reaching for. Right? Yeah. You're like, I'm not strong enough to do that yet, but I will be.
Yeah. Right? Like I think when people are starting off, they get caught in the comp weights should scare you.
Yes.
When you first start. So you're like, oh, I can't even do that, but I'm going to train towards it and then hit it at comp. And you kind of get caught in that mentality of the comp weight should be big and scary. And it's like, eventually when you get strong enough, they just can't be.
Yeah, of course. Can't keep
I've had quite a few athletes where a comp's been posted in their weights and they're like, oh, that's not very heavy. I'm like, a year ago, you would have been shitting yourself.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not that the comp's not heavy. You got stronger.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean that you can't do the comp.
Yeah,
for sure. You're not allowed. Yeah, because you can do the weights. Yeah. You're not too good for the comp.
Yeah. Like world comps get posted. It's like, okay, that's reasonable.
A lot of them do. Like
a lot of them aren't that heavy.
The Paris Worlds comp, the SCL comp. Yeah. Like I'm like,
some are heavy.
I'm like, that's a big weekend, or that's a big 2 days. That's going to be a heavy comp. But each individual event, it's like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
Right now.
Of course.
But so can everyone.
Yeah, that's it. Like, it's how well you could do it. And that's what people get caught up with. You hear so often like, oh, it's strongman, it's not CrossFit. Like, these events are so light. It's like, well, it's strongman.
Yep.
Some events will be light. Some will be endurance-based. Some might be heavy. And if you're doing these comps, some should be in your warehouse. Some might push you, but it depends on what level you're going to be at. But it doesn't mean that everyone else can do those weights too.
Yep.
Who can do them the best? Who can do them the fastest? Who can find tips and tricks to shortcut the movement to make a little bit, to shave a second on each clean, or like save a second on each rep, or whatever it might be, you know? That's where the nitty gritty stuff comes in, and that's where people probably don't understand. Like, it's not about the loads entirely. Right? Yeah. It's about how well you can do those loads in a lighter program. I fear lighter comps more than I do heavy comps.
Yeah, well, it's meant to be a sport too.
Yeah.
It's not meant to just be lifting weights and lifting heavy.
Yes.
It's meant to be a sport. There's meant to be skill. There's meant to be transitions between things. Totally. There's meant to be endurance.
Well, and it's also a sport where it's not a maximal strength sport.
Yeah.
It's a muscular endurance sport. It's a speed and agility sport, like that to some degree or some extent. It's a max power sport. It's a bit of everything. That's what strongman is. It's like across the strength modalities, across muscular endurance, maximal power, all those sort of things. Who is the strongest?
Yeah, at different things.
At a broad spectrum of things to test your overall strength, right, and diversity of strength.
I find that it should be heavy or the comp's not heavy enough always funny. Yeah. Because the people that say that, where they're like, oh, it's too light, that should be heavy, the log should at least be 120 kilos like it's strongman. And I sit there thinking like, that's not heavy. Yeah. You're just weak. Yeah. Like, don't boast being like, it should be heavy, because like, I know what your max is, and like, you're going to struggle anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
you can only do 3 reps. Why are you saying it should be heavier?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's easy to jump in an event that's 50-50 whether you're going to get 1 rep or not. There's no pressure.
Yes.
Because you're like, it's so heavy that you know that you're going to do shit. Yeah. Give somebody an event where they can do 8 reps and everybody else can do 8.
And you can't make a mistake.
That's pressure. That's hard. That's stressful.
So I was saying, I honestly think that lighter comps are more stressful or harder than heavy comps, especially like in Oz, for example. Like, I feel like if there's a heavy event, I'm sweet. Right? Yeah. Like, I feel like
the separation's far bigger,
right? Because like, I know I'm capable of doing probably 20% more than most, right? Yep. From a purely strength across the strongman implements thing. But you give me weights where everyone else can do them. Like, there's people faster on a certain event. There's people who might be better at a certain skill. So suddenly you got 10 guys with a mix of abilities and everyone can do the weights. Well, then there's a good chance that people are going to have slight, like, whether it's maybe not on every single one of them, but you're going to have people who kind of take events here and there because they're very good at that specific skill or that specific load. So they're much more like worrying for sure.
Yeah, when I started out, like if there was a lightish comp for farmers or sled or things like that, I loved it. Yeah. Because I was like, I can't do that heavy that guy can.
But I can move.
But I can send it and just hope for the best. And if I beat you, like you were just too slow.
Yeah, totally.
Now I'm at the opposite end. Yeah. Where I'm like, oh, if it was heavier, I know I've got them covered. Yeah. Because they'll stop it too.
Exactly how I used to look at overheads before like overhead got better was like, if I saw the event and it was an overhead medley, I was like, oh, I can't beat that guy with a max log. Yep. But I can rip through 4 implements at like that 80% mark with very good skill and speed. Yeah. Right? And that's what carries you over. So those lighter comps are definitely harder. Yeah. So 50, 30 to 40, 20 to 10, looking at your comp year and stuff like that and sort of assessing sort of where things are going for you and how that comp makeup looks like. Yeah. Personal goals this year to wrap things up.
Just to get strong again. Just to feel strong again.
Yeah.
No, do ASI.
Yep.
Have fun, see how it goes.
Yep.
April, middleweights.
Yep.
Do that. July, UK.
Yep. Yeah, huge comp. Under 90s, UK.
Yep.
John Hack. How do you feel about that?
Depends if he trains for it or not. if he doesn't train for it,
Yeah.
because everyone's like, oh, he's going to wipe the floor. And I'm like, he's only got a 130 log.
Yeah.
Impressive because he's probably done it 3 times.
Yes.
But
is he going to put the time?
Yeah, is he going to prep for it? Yeah, probably the most stacked 90s lineup.
Amazing.
Ever.
Congratulations to Luke Davies putting together. It was very cool.
Yeah. It's pretty much like the top 10 of OSG, a couple others, couple of 105s cutting down. I think one of the Tylers, I can't remember his last name, he came 4th at Clash.
Yep.
Cutting down from 105. Matt McKeegan cutting down from 105. Yep. Ben Dolan going up from 80s, who won OSG at 80s.
Yeah, cool.
And then a few other UK guys
that
are, Luke was just like, oh, they're strong as fuck. They just, no one knows them.
Yeah.
And then, John Hack and whoever else. So I think...
Super cool.
Yeah, numbers-wise and names-wise, I'm like, cool, I'm the least known, don't exist in that underdog list ever. One of the American guys was like doing a podcast on it, and he's like, I'm going to get everybody individually on for like interviews. I've contacted all the guys. If I haven't contacted them yet, I probably will. And I'm like, hasn't contacted me. But I like that. Like, I like that. Like, no one fucking knows who I am.
Yeah.
My lifts are good, and if they look at them, like, they're in the mix, and I can beat some of those people on certain events, but they're not outrageously
I feel
high.
like it's almost like a benefit in Australia because we're this little convict island that no one gives a fuck about, and it gets forgotten a little bit. Like, when I went to OSG, like, no one knew me. Like, there was like 3 people who, the only reason why anyone knew my name was because 3 weeks beforehand I pulled that 380 at Big Strongest. And everyone's like, oh, you're that guy that pulled 380 raw. No one else. And came 3rd amongst like 35 guys. Right? Like, no one knows you. And it wasn't till like I spent that year competing at each sort of thing that like you start to get a little bit of like cred.
They probably just think you're Ukrainian or something. Anyway, they probably think you're from Czech.
Long enough over there, holding the flag. I think it's almost like a little bit of an advantage. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one's taking notice, sort of thing. Sometimes.
Yeah, SEL in Finland was like that. Like, everybody knew everybody because they were all from the top countries. Yeah. And then walk off, and someone's like, "Who won that event?" And someone's like, "Oh, the Australian." And they're like, "Who?"
Yeah.
Like, hi. Hi. I did good.
I'm on probation.
So that's pretty much it for me. What about you? What are yours?
Yeah, I don't know. Nah, get strong again too. Took ASI off after middleweight series, so not doing ASI. I'm excited about that mostly because like I think that the competition is going to be really fun to watch without me in there. Like those guys,
pat yourself on the back.
Those guys are so close. Yeah. That's probably a poor thing to say. We edit that out. But no, without internationals and stuff like that for ASI, like I didn't see there was a heap of benefit to compete in it. Versus the time now to be able to put in some actual work and like pull things back and do some technique work and stuff like that as well, and just sort of like recomp a little bit. So just been working on my food choices. I start to put some weight back on. And start to build up towards April, and then probably hoping that something comes along the lines where you're in the UK so we can sort of go over. Because if it's October, November, I'm a little bit fucked. So I'm hoping that there's an opportunity to compete. Organisers, please. Sometime in
holding out for Paris.
So Paris is potentially October. Whether that's Worlds or not, I don't think Bruno knows. So, or whether they'll hold Worlds at a different Ultimate Strongman comp. Because Paris is booked in for October, then OSG is November, and I'm getting married at the start of November. So,
in saying that, a few of the 90s guys mentioned that like Ultimate Worlds, like the Paris one that was last year, that's on their list of stuff to do. So I think, and they're from America as well. So I think they're hoping the same thing.
So hopefully you can kind of sway stuff, or even like bring it to the UK or something like that, which would be cool, or Ireland, or I don't know, it'd be cool to go somewhere cool. But yeah, and hopefully get some comps over there while we're there. Like I'd love to do some comps over in UK or around those that are easy to get to while we're there, and go over a few weeks.
Would you get heavy enough to try to qualify for ASM and go back and do ASM again?
Yeah, potentially.
For next 2024.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, I'm really focused on I want to compete at Worlds and be competitive in the 105s. Do you know what I mean? That's why like the heavyweight thing doesn't interest me as much.
Yep.
But I think that like if I was like 112, 113, I'd probably send some heavyweight comps and just try to get back to like a strength where I'm beating those guys.
Yep.
But I just like to get strong. I just like to focus on training and food and just enjoy the process again.
Yep.
Not again. I always enjoy the process. Like I enjoy training, but there's a lot of things that I'd like everything to get better again to where it was.
Just have a consistent 6 months.
Yeah.
With food and training where something doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, I don't do stupid shit.
Yeah. Or lose weight.
Go travel.
What are you now? 104.3.
104.1 this morning. So
yeah.
Yeah. So I got some weight to put on, probably 10 kilos.
Yeah. That's a lot of weight.
Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Just stay away from vans and travel and whatever else.
Yeah. Just actually train and eat.
I don't think that this year there's probably a lot besides the wedding and stuff like that. There's probably not a lot in the first half of the year that's probably detracting from training, which is why I'm committing a lot harder to it.
Yeah.
Because I do see that, okay, that's why I didn't do it, because this is the first time in a long time that I feel like I've got actually
time.
Nothing but time to train and eat and get better. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I think this year will be like that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
People just have 6 months or something and just train.
Yeah.
Have bigger goals, long-term goals.
Yeah. The big goals is to win overseas.
Yep.
Again. So that's number one for both of us.
Yep.
That's it. We're rambling now. Sorry if you had to persevere through that podcast. Have a lovely week and fortnight. We'll see you at Clash or ASI on the weekend. Come say hey. We love to meet you guys if we haven't already. Sick.
Yeah.
Have a great time. Go compete. Bring them hell.